Okay, Hare Krishna, welcome to today's reading of Srimad Bhagavatam. We're starting today a new chapter of the second canto. This chapter is entitled The Process of Creation. We do start, before we start reading, we recite Mahima Stotra. So let's do that in a glorification of Bhagavatam. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha, Sarva Vedaika Satpalam, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya, Sarva Lokaika Drikpadam. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all of the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabho, Kalidvanto Ditaditya, Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali, you are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Patnaya Prema Vakshaksharayate Sarvanda Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishna Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Shri Krishna himself. Madeka Bandha Matsangin Madguru Matmahadana Manishtaraka Madbhagya Madananda Namostate. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadutadayin atini chochataraka hanamuncha kadachinmam premna hrit kantayos pura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen priests, never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So welcome everyone. Hare Krishna. Welcome to today's reading of Srimad Bhagavatam, the spotless Purana, the topmost Purana. We are at Canto 2. We started a few months ago. That was just at the end of Kartik. So we are continuing 3 times a week. And we came all the way to the chapter 4 of the second canto, and we're starting at verse number 1. Translation. Sutta Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, the son of Uttara, after hearing the speeches of Shukadev Goswami, which were all about the truth of the self, applied his concentration faithfully upon Lord Krishna. Purport. The word satim is very significant. This means existing and chaste. And both imports are perfectly applicable in case of Maharaj Parikshit. The whole Vedic adventure is to draw one's attention entirely onto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna without any diversion, as instructed in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Fortunately, Maharaj Parikshit had already been attracted to the Lord from the very beginning of his body, in the womb of his mother. In the womb of his mother, he was struck by the Brahmastra atomic bomb released by Ashwatthama, but by the grace of the Lord, he was saved from being burned by the fiery weapon, and since then the king continuously concentrated his mind upon Lord Krishna, which made him perfectly chaste in devotional service. So by natural sequence, he was a chaste devotee of the Lord, and when he further heard from Srila Shukadeva Goswami that one should worship the Lord only and no one else, even though full of all desires or desireless, his natural affection for Krishna was strengthened. We have already discussed these topics. To become a pure devotee of Lord Krishna, 2 things are very much essential, namely having a chance to be born in a family of a devotee and having the blessings of a bona fide spiritual master. By the grace of Lord Krishna, Parikshit Maharaja had both opportunities. He was born in a family of such devotees as the Pandavas, and just to continue the dynasty of the Pandavas and show them special favor, the Lord specifically saved Maharaj Parikshit, who later on, by the arrangement of the Lord, was cursed by the boy of a Brahmana and was able to get the association of such a spiritual master as Shukadev Goswami. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that a fortunate person, by the mercy of the spiritual master and Lord Krishna, achieves the path of devotional service. This was perfectly applicable in the case of Maharaj Parikshit. By way of being born in a family of devotees, he automatically came in touch with Krishna, and after being so contacted, he constantly remembered him. Consequently, Lord Krishna gave the king a further chance for development in devotional service by introducing him to Shukadeva Goswami, a stalwart devotee of the Lord with perfect knowledge in self-realization. And by hearing from a bona fide spiritual master, he was perfectly able to concentrate his chaste mind further upon Lord Krishna as a matter of course. Text 2. Maharaj Parikshit, as a result of his wholehearted attraction for Lord Krishna, was able to give up all deep-rooted affection for his personal body, his wife, his children, his palace, his animals like horses and elephants, his treasury house, his friends and relatives, and his undisputed kingdom. Purport. To become liberated means to become free from dehatma buddhi, the illusory attachment for personal bodily coverings and everything connected with the body, namely wife, children, and all other entanglements. One selects a wife for bodily comforts, and the result is children. For wife and children, one requires a dwelling place, and as such, a residential house is also necessary. Animals like horses, elephants, cows, and dogs are all household animals, and a householder has to keep them as household paraphernalia. In modern civilization, the horses and elephants have been replaced by cars and conveyances with considerable horsepower. To maintain all the household affairs, one has to increase the bank balance and be careful about the treasury house, and in order to display the opulence of material assets, one has to keep good relations with friends and relatives, as well as become very careful about maintaining the status quo. This is called material civilization of material attachment. Devotion for Lord Krishna means negation of all material attachments as detailed above. By the grace of Lord Krishna, Maharaj Parikshit was awarded all material amenities and an undisputed kingdom in which to enjoy the undisturbed position of king. But by the grace of the Lord, he was able to give up all connections with material attachment. That is the position of a pure devotee. Maharaj Parikshit, due to his natural affection for Lord Krishna as a devotee of the Lord, was always executing his royal duties on behalf of the Lord, and as a responsible king of the world, he was always careful to see that the influence of Kali would not enter his kingdom. A devotee of the Lord never thinks of his household paraphernalia as his own, but surrenders everything for the service of the Lord. Thereby, living entities under a devotee's care get the opportunity for God realization by the management of a devotee master. Attachment for household paraphernalia and for Lord Krishna go poorly together. One attachment is the path of darkness, and the other attachment is the path of light. When there is light, there is no darkness, and when there is darkness, there is no light. But an expert devotee can turn everything to the path of light by an attitude of service to the Lord, and the best example here is the Pandavas. Maharaj Yudhishthira and householders like him can turn everything to light by dovetailing so-called material assets in the service of the Lord. But one who is not trained or is unable to turn everything to the service of the Lord, Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe, must give up all material connections before he can be fit to hear and chant the glories of the Lord. Or in other words, one who has seriously heard Srimad Bhagavatam for even one day, like Maharaj Parikshit, from a fit personality like Shukadeva Goswami, may be able to lose all affinity for material things. There is no utility simply in imitating Maharaj Parikshit and hearing Bhagavatam from professional men, even for 700 years. To take Srimad Bhagavatam as a means of maintaining family expenditure is the grossest type of nama parada, offense, at the feet of the Lord. Sarvashubha kriya samya api pramadaha. Verse 3 and 4, the double verse. Translation: O great sages, the great soul Maharaj Parikshit, constantly wrapped in thought of Lord Krishna, knowing well of his imminent death, renounced all sorts of fruitive activities, namely acts of religion, economic development, and sense gratification, and thus fixed himself firmly in his natural love for Krishna, and asked all these questions exactly as you are asking me. Purport: the three activities of religion, economic development, and sense gratification are generally attractive for conditioned souls struggling for existence in the material world. Such regulated activities prescribed in the Vedas are called the karma kandya conception of life, and householders are generally recommended to follow the rules just to enjoy material prosperity both in this life and in the next. Most people are attracted by such activities. Even in the activities of their modern godless civilization, people are more concerned with economic development and sense gratification without any religious sentiments. As a great emperor of the world, Maharaj Parikshit had to observe such regulations of the Vedic Karma Kandya section, but by his slight association with Shukadeva Goswami, he could perfectly understand that Lord Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, from whom he had a natural love since his birth, is everything, and thus he fixed his mind firmly upon him, renouncing all modes of Vedic Karma Kandya activities. This perfectional stage is attained by a jnani after many, many births. The jnanis, or the empiric philosophers endeavoring for liberation, are thousands of times better than the fruitive workers, and out of hundreds of thousands of such jnanis, one is liberated factually. And out of hundreds and thousands of such liberated persons, even one person is rarely found who can firmly fix his mind unto the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna, as declared by the Lord himself in the Bhagavad Gita 7.19. Maharaj Parikshit is specially qualified with the word Nama Manaha, which puts him on an equal level with the Mahatmas described in the Bhagavad Gita. In the later age, also there have been many Mahatmas of this type, and they also gave up all Karma Kandya conceptions of life, solely and wholly depending on the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Lord Chaitanya, who is Lord Krishna himself, taught us in his Shikshastra 8, Ashli Shava Padartam Pinastumam Adarshanam Marma Hatam Karotuva Yata Tata Va Vidadatu Lampato Mat Prana Natastu Sa Eva Na Paraha. Lord Krishna, who is the lover of many devotees, women, may embrace this fully surrendered maidservant, or may trample me with his feet, or he may render me broken-hearted by not being present before me for a long duration of time, but still he is nothing less than the absolute Lord of my heart. Srila Rupa Goswami spoke thus, Virachaya mai dandam dinabando dayami va gatir ihana bhavata ka chit anya mamasti nipatatu shatakoti nirbaram vanavam baha tad api kila payoda stuyate chatakena. O Lord of the poor, do what you like with me. Give me either mercy or punishment. But in this world I have none to look to accept your lordship. The Chataka bird always prays for the cloud, regardless of whether it showers rain or throws a thunderbolt. Srila Madhavendra Puri, the grand spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya, took leave of all Karma Kandya obligations in the following words. Sandhya Vandana Badram Astu Bhavato Bo Snana Tubhyam Namo Bo Devas Pitarash Chatarpana Vidau Naham Kshamam Kshamyatam Yatra Kvapi Nishadya Yadava Kulotamasya Kamsa Dvishaha Smaram Agham Harami Tat Alam Mani Kim Anyena Me. O my evening prayer, all good unto you. O my morning bath, I bid you goodbye. O demigods and forefathers, please excuse me. I am unable to perform any more offerings for your pleasure. Now I have decided to free myself from all reactions to sins simply by remembering anywhere and everywhere the great descendant of Yadu and the great enemy of Kamsa, Lord Krishna. I think that this is sufficient for me. So what is the use of further endeavors? Srila Madhavendra Puri said further, Mugdam mam nigadantu niti nipuna Brantam muhur vaidikha manda bandava sanchaya jada diyam mukta dara sodaraha unmatam danino viveka chaturam kamam maha dambikam moktum na kshamate manak api mano govinda paras priham. Let the sharp moralist excuse me of being illusioned. I do not mind. Experts in Vedic activities may slander me as being misled, Friends and relatives may call me frustrated. My brothers may call me a fool. The wealthy Mammonites may point me out as mad, and the learned philosophers may assert that I am much too proud. Still my mind does not budge an inch from the determination to serve the lotus feet of Govinda, though I be unable to do it. And also Prahlad Maharaj said, Dharmatha kama itiyo bihitas trivarga ikshatrai naya damau vivida cha varta manye tat etat akilam nigamasya satyam svatmarpanam sva sukhrida paramasya pumshaha. Religion, economic development, and sense gratification are celebrated as three means of attaining the path of salvation. Of these, ikshatrayi especially, there is knowledge of the self, knowledge of fruitive acts, and logic, and also politics and economics, are different means of livelihood. All these are different subjects of Vedic education, and therefore I consider them temporary engagements. On the other hand, surrendering unto the Supreme Lord Vishnu is a factual gain in life, and I consider it the ultimate truth. Bhagavatam 7:6-26. The whole matter is concluded in the Bhagavad Gita 2:41 as Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, or the absolute path of perfection. Sri Baladeva Vidyabhushana, a great Vaishnava scholar, defines this as Bhagavat Archana Rupaika Nishkama Karmabhi Vishuddha Chitaha, accepting transcendental loving service to the Lord as the prime duty, free from fruitive reaction. So Maharaj Parikshit was perfectly right when he firmly accepted the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, renouncing all karma kandya conceptions of life. Text 5. Maharaj Parikshit said, O learned Brahmana, you know everything because you are without material contamination. Therefore, whatever you have spoken to me appears perfectly right. Your speeches are gradually destroying the darkness of my ignorance, for you are narrating the topics of the Lord. Purport. The practical experience of Maharaj Parikshit is disclosed herein, revealing that transcendental topics of the Lord act like injections when received by the sincere devotee from a person who is perfectly uncontaminated by material tinges. In other words, reception of the messages of Srimad Bhagavatam from professional men heard by a Karmakandya audience never acts miraculously as stated here. Devotional hearing of the messages of the Lord is not like hearing ordinary topics. Therefore, the action will be felt by the sincere hearer by experience of the gradual disappearance of ignorance. Yasya deve para bhaktir yata deve tata gurau tasya te katita hyartaha prakashante mahatmanaha. This is Shu from Shvetashvatara Upanishad. When a hungry man is given food to eat, he feels satiation of hunger and the pleasure of dining simultaneously. Thus, he does not have to ask whether he has actually been fed or not. The crucial test of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is that one should get positive enlightenment by such an act. Text 6. I beg to know from you how the personality of Godhead, by his personal energies, creates these phenomenal universes as they are, which are inconceivable even to the great demigods. Purport. In every inquisitive mind, the important question of the creation of the phenomenal world arises, and therefore for a personality like Maharaj Parikshit, who was to know all the activities of the Lord from his spiritual master, such an inquiry is not uncommon. For every unknown thing, we have to learn and inquire from a learned personality. The question of creation is also one of such inquiries to be made to the right person. The spiritual master, therefore, must be one who is samagya, as stated herein before in connection with Shukadeva Goswami. Thus all inquiries on God which are unknown to the disciple may be made from the qualified spiritual master, and here the practical example is set by Maharaj Parikshit. It was, however, already known to Maharaj Parikshit that everything we see is born out of the energy of the Lord, as we have all learned in the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. Janmadya asya yataha. So Maharaj Parikshit wanted to know the process of creation. The origin of creation was known to him, otherwise he would not have inquired how the personality of Godhead, by his different energies, creates this phenomenal world. The common man also knows that the creation is made by some creator and is not created automatically. We have no experience in the practical world that a thing is created automatically. Foolish people say that the creative energy is independent and acts automatically as electrical energy works. But the intelligent man knows that even the electrical energy is generated by an expert engineer in the localized powerhouse, and thus the energy is distributed everywhere under the resident engineer's supervision. The Lord's supervision in connection with creation is mentioned even in the Bhagavad Gita 9.10, and it is clearly said there that material energy is a manifestation of one of many such energies of the Supreme. Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate. An inexperienced boy may be struck with wonder by seeing the impersonal actions of electronics or many other wonderful things conducted by electrical energy, but an experienced man knows that behind the action is a living man who creates such energy. Similarly, the so-called scholars and philosophers of the world may, by mental speculation, present so many utopian theories about the impersonal creation of the universe, but an intelligent devotee of the Lord, by studying the Bhagavad Gita, can know that behind the creation is the hand of the Supreme Lord, just as in the generating electrical powerhouse there is the resident engineer. The research scholar finds out the cause and the effect of everything, but research scholars as great as Brahma, Shiva, Indra, and many other demigods are sometimes bewildered by seeing the wonderful creative energy of the Lord. So what to speak of the tiny mundane scholars dealing in petty things? As there are differences in the living conditions of different planets of the universe, and as one planet is superior to others, the brains of the living entities in those respective planets are also of different categorical values. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, one can compare the long duration of life of the inhabitants of Brahma's planet, which is inconceivable to the inhabitants of this planet Earth, to the categorical value of the brain of Brahmaji, also inconceivable to any great scientist of this planet. And with such high brain power, even Brahmaji has described in his great Samhita, Brahma Samhita 5.1 as follows: Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. There are many personalities possessing the qualities of Bhagavan, but Krishna is the Supreme because none can excel him. He is the Supreme Person, and his body is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. He is the primeval Lord Govinda and the cause of all causes. Brahmaji admits Lord Krishna to be the supreme cause of all causes, but persons with tiny brains within this petty planet Earth think of the Lord as one of them. Thus, when the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita that He, Lord Krishna, is all in all, the speculative philosophers and the mundane wranglers deride him, and the Lord regretfully says, Avajanandi mam muda manushim tanam ashritam param bhavam ajanantom mama bhuta maheshwaram. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. It's 9.11. Brahma and Shiva, and what to speak of other demigods, are bhutas, or powerful created demigods who manage universal affairs, much like ministers appointed by a king. The ministers may be Ishwaras or controllers, but the Supreme Lord is Maheshwara, or the creator of the controllers. Persons with a poor fund of knowledge do not know this, and therefore they have the audacity to deride him because he comes before us by his causeless mercy occasionally as a human being. The Lord is not like a human being. He is Satchidananda Vigraha, or the absolute personality of Godhead, and there is no difference between his body and his soul. He is both the power and the powerful. Maharaj Parikshit did not ask his spiritual master Shukadeva Goswami to narrate Lord Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. He wanted to hear first about the creation of the Lord. Shukadeva Goswami did not say that the king should hear about the direct transcendental pastimes of the Lord. The time was very short, and naturally Shukadeva Goswami could have gone directly to the 10th canto to make a shortcut of the whole thing, as generally done by the professional reciters. But neither the king nor the great speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam jumped up like the organizers of Bhagavatam. Both of them proceeded systematically, so that both future readers and hearers might take lessons from the example of the procedure of reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. Those who are in control of the external energy of the Lord, or in other words, those who are in the material world, must first of all know how the external energy of the Lord is working under the direction of the Supreme Personality, and afterwards one may try to enter into the activities of his internal energy. The mundaners are mostly worshippers of Durga Devi, the external energy of Krishna, but they do not know that Durga Devi is but the shadow energy of the Lord. Behind her astonishing display of material workings is the direction of the Lord, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 9.10. The Brahma Samhita affirms that Durga Shakti is working by the direction of Govinda, and without his sanction the powerful Durga Shakti cannot move even a blade of grass. Therefore, the neophyte devotee, instead of jumping at once to the platform of transcendental pastimes presented by the internal energy of the Lord, may know how great the Supreme Lord is by inquiring about the process of his creative energy. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita also, descriptions of the creative energy and the Lord's hand in it are explained, and the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita has warned the neophyte devotees to be seriously on guard against the pitfall of neglecting knowledge about Krishna in regard to how great he is. Only when one knows Lord Krishna's greatness can one firmly put one's unflinching faith in him. Otherwise, like the common man, even the great leaders of men will mistake Lord Krishna for one of the many demigods, or a historical personality, or a myth only. The transcendental pastimes of the Lord in Vrindavan, or even at Dwarka, are relishable for persons who have already qualified themselves in advanced spiritual techniques, and the common man may be able to attain to such a plane by the gradual process of service and inquiries, as we shall see in the behavior of Maharaj Parikshit. Text 7. Translation. Kindly describe how the Supreme Lord, who is all-powerful, engages his different energies and different expansions in maintaining and again winding up the phenomenal world in the sporting spirit of a player. Purport. In the Katha Upanishads, the Supreme Lord is described as the chief eternal being amongst all other eternal individual beings, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam, and the one Supreme Lord who maintains innumerable other individual living beings, Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kaman. So all living entities, both in the conditioned state and in the liberated state, are maintained by the Almighty Supreme Lord. Such maintenance is effected by the Lord through his different expansions of self and three principal energies, namely the internal, external, and marginal energies. The living entities are his marginal energies, and some of them, in the confidence of the Lord, are entrusted with the work of creation also, as are Brahma, Marichi, etc. And the acts of creation are inspired by the Lord unto them, Tene Brahma Hrida. The external energy, Maya, is also impregnated with jivas, or conditioned souls. The unconditioned marginal potency acts in the spiritual kingdom, and the Lord, by his different planetary expansions, maintains them in different transcendental relations displayed in the spiritual sky. So the one Supreme Personality of Godhead manifests himself in many, Bahu Sham, and thus all diversities are in him, and he is in all diversities, although he is nevertheless different from all of them. That is the inconceivable mystic power of the Lord, and as such everything is simultaneously one with and different from him by his inconceivable potencies. Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva. That is also the name of our philosophy. Because we have Advaita Vedanta philosophy, we have Dvaita philosophy. Advaita means non-dual, all is one. Dvaita means there are two. There's God, the Supreme, and there's living beings, and there are different varieties of that Dvaita, Shuddha Dvaita. They're like different. All other Vaishnava Sampradayas, they have different, slightly different take on this Dvaita philosophy, Dvaita Vedanta philosophy. But our philosophy it actually encompasses all the other philosophies, because it's achintya beda beda tattva, means, like it says here, is one, simultaneously one with and different. So it's not Advaita or Dvaita, but it's Advaita and Dvaita. So it's a lot to go into this topic. Okay, 8. Translation. O learned Brahmana, the transcendental activities of the Lord are all wonderful, and they appear inconceivable because even great endeavors by many learned scholars have still proved insufficient for understanding them. Purport. The acts of the Supreme Lord in the creation of just this one universe appear inconceivably wonderful, and there are innumerable universes, and all of them aggregated together are known as the created material world. And this part of his creation is only a fractional portion of the complete creation. The material world stands as a part only, ekam shenastito jagat. Supposing that the material world is a display of one part of his energy, the remaining 3 parts consist of the Vaikuntha Jagat, or spiritual world described in the Bhagavad Gita as Mat-Dhamma or Sanatan Dhamma, or the eternal world. We have marked in the previous verse that he creates and again winds up the creation. This action is applicable only in the material world because the other greater part of his creation, namely the Vaikuntha world, is neither created nor annihilated. Otherwise the Vaikuntha Dhamma would not have been called eternal. The Lord exists with Dhamma. His eternal name, quality, pastimes, entourage, and personality are all a display of his different energies and expansions. The Lord is called Anadi, or having no creator, and Adi, or the origin of all. We think in our own imperfect way that the Lord is also created, but the Vedanta informs us that he is not created. Rather, everything else is created by him, Narayana Paro Vyaktat. Therefore, for the common man, these are all very wonderful matters for consideration. Even for great scholars, they are inconceivable, and thus such scholars present theories contradictory to one another. Even for the insignificant part of his creation, this particular universe, they have no complete information as to how far this limited space extends, or how many stars and planets are there, or the different conditions of those innumerable planets. Modern scientists have insufficient knowledge of all this. Some of them assert that there are 100 million planets scattered all over the place. In a news release from Moscow, dated 21st February 1960, the following piece of knowledge was relayed. Russia's well-known professor of astronomy, Boris Vorontsov Velyaminov, said that there must be an infinite number of planets in the universe inhabited by beings endowed with reason. It could be that life similar to that on Earth flourishes on such planets. Doctor of Chemistry Nikolai Zhirov, covering the problem of atmosphere on other planets, pointed out that the organism of a Martian, for instance, could very well adapt itself to normal existence with a low body temperature. He said that he felt that the gaseous composition of Martian atmosphere was quite suitable to sustain life of beings which have become adapted to it. This adaptability of an organism to different varieties of planets is described in the Brahma Samhita as Vibhuti Binam. That is, each and every one of the innumerable planets within the universe is endowed with a particular type of atmosphere, and the living beings there are more perfectly advanced in sciences and psychology because of a better atmosphere. Vibhuti means specific powers, and Binam means variegated. Scientists who are attempting to explore outer space and are trying to reach other planets by mechanical arrangements must know for certain that organisms adapted to the atmosphere of Earth cannot exist in the atmospheres of other planets. Easy journey to other planets. That's in parentheses. One has to prepare himself, therefore, to be transferred to a different planet after being relieved of the present body, as it is said in the Bhagavad Gita 9.25. Yanti deva vrta devan pitrinyanti pitrivrataha Bhutani yanti bhuteja yantimat yajino pimam. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship goats and spirits will take birth among such beings, and those who worship me will live with me. Maharaj Parikshit's statement regarding the workings of the creative energy of the Lord discloses that he knew everything of the process of creation. Why then did he ask Shukadeva Goswami for such information? Maharaj Parikshit, being a great emperor, a descendant of the Pandavas, and a great devotee of Lord Krishna, was quite able to know considerably about the creation of the world, but that much knowledge was not sufficient. He said therefore that even greatly learned scholars fail to know about that, even after great effort. The Lord is unlimited, and his activities are also unfathomed. With a limited source of knowledge and with imperfect senses, any living being up to the standard of Brahmaji, the highest perfect living being within the universe, can never imagine knowing about the unlimited. We can know something of the unlimited when it is explained by the unlimited, as has been done by the Lord himself in the unique statements of the Bhagavad Gita, and it can also be known to some extent from realized souls like Shukadeva Goswami, who learned it from Vyasadeva, a disciple of Narada. And thus the perfect knowledge can descend by the chain of disciplic succession only, and not by any form of experimental knowledge, old or modern. Thus ends me reading. I hand it over to John.
Johnny Mac.
John Prabhu.
Kijai.
Put this on.
Oh, I think I'll just. Thank you. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Haribo, everybody. The cosmic manifestation. Thank you. See you well. Oh, damn you. Get on there. Yeah. And we're live. Hare Krishna, everybody. So, we have 15 minutes, so we're okay. So, 249. One check chapter 4 already.
Text 9.
Text 9, yeah. So, translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is one, whether he alone acts with the modes of material nature, or simultaneously expands in many forms, or expands consecutively to direct the modes of nature. Well, no purport on that one. So we move on to 10. Translation. Kindly clear up all these doubtful inquiries, because you are not only vastly learned in the Vedic literatures and self-realized in transcendence, but are also a great devotee of the Lord, and are therefore as good as the personality of Godhead. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that the supreme absolute truth, Govinda, the personality of Godhead, although one without a second, is infallibly expanded by the innumerable forms, non-different from one another. And although he is the original person, he is still ever young with permanent youthful energy. He is very difficult to know simply by learning the transcendental science of the Vedas, but he is very easily realized by his pure devotees. The expansions of different forms of the Lord, as from Krishna to Baladev to Sankarshan, from Sankarshan to Vasudeva, from Vasudeva to Anirudh, from Anirudh to Pradyumna, and again to second Sankarshan, and from him to the Narayan Purusha avatars, and innumerable other forms which are compared to the constant flowing of the uncountable waves of a river, are all one and the same. They are like lamps of equal power which kindle from one lamp to another. That is the transcendental potency of the Lord. The Vedas say that he is so complete that even though the whole complete identity emanates from him, he still remains the same complete whole. Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. You know what that's from?
Sorry?
Do you know where that's from? Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate.
Is this during the Mahabharata war?
No.
So from there.
Sri Ishupanishad.
Sorry?
The Sri Ishupanishad. Have you read that book?
No.
You should read it, it's very good.
There are a lot to know.
It's very small little book. But that's the invocation, I think, the first verse of it. It talks about the complete whole and everything emanating from him. It's a nice little book. That's the first book I ever read.
Oh.
As such, there is no validity in a material conception of the Lord produced by the mental speculator. Thus he remains always a mystery for the mundane scholar, even if he is vastly learned in the Vedic literatures. Vedeshu durlabam adurlabam atma bhaktao. Therefore the Lord is beyond the limit of conception for mundane learned scholars, philosophers or scientists. He is easily understandable for the pure devotee because the Lord declares in the Bhagavad Gita 1854 that after surpassing the stage of knowledge, when one is able to be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, then only can one know the true nature of the Lord. One cannot have any clear conception of the Lord or His holy name, form, attributes, pastimes, etc., unless one is engaged in His transcendental loving service. The statement of the Bhagavad Gita that one must first of all surrender unto the Lord, being freed from all other engagements, means that one must become a pure, unconditional devotee of the Lord. Only then can one know Him by the strength of devotional service. That's what Krishna declares in Bhagavad Gita. One can only know me by devotional service. Maharaj Parikshit admitted in the previous verse that the Lord is inconceivable even for the greatest learned scholars. Why then should he again request Shukdev Goswami to clarify his insufficient knowledge about the Lord? The reason is clear. Not only was Shukdev Goswami vastly learned in the Vedic literatures, but he was also a great self-realized soul and a powerful devotee of the Lord. A powerful devotee of the Lord is, by the grace of the Lord, more than the Lord himself. The personality of God, head Sri Ramachandra, attempted to bridge the Indian Ocean to reach the island of Lanka. But Sri Hanumanji, the unalloyed devotee of the personality of Godhead, could cross the ocean simply by jumping over it. The Lord is so merciful upon his pure devotee that he presents his beloved devotee as more powerful than himself. The Lord expressed himself to be unable to save the Vasa Muni, although the Muni was so powerful that he could reach the Lord directly under material conditions. But the Vasa Muni was saved by Maharaj Ambarish, a devotee of the Lord. Therefore, not only is the devotee of the Lord more powerful than the Lord, but also worship of the devotee is considered more effective than direct worship of the Lord. Mad Bhakta Puja Byadika. Srimad bhagavatam 11, 19, 21. So, the conclusion is, therefore, that a serious devotee must approach a spiritual master who not only is well versed in the Vedic literatures, but is also a great devotee with factual realization of the Lord and his different energies. Without the help of such a devotee, spiritual master, one cannot make progress in the transcendental science of the Lord. And a bona fide spiritual master like Shukdev Goswami does not speak about the Lord only in the matter of his internal potencies, but also explains how he associates with his external potencies. The Lord's pastimes in the internal potency are displayed in his activities in Vrindavan, but his external potential works are directed in his features of Karanarnavashai Vishnu, Garbhodakashai Vishnu, and Kshirodakashai Vishnu. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti offers his good counsel to the interested Vaishnavas when he says that they should not be interested in hearing only about the Lord's activities like Ras Leela, but must be keenly interested in his pastimes, in its features of the Purusha avatars in connection with the Shrishti Tattva, creational functions, following the examples of Maharaj Parikshit, the ideal disciple, and Shukdev Goswami, the ideal spiritual master. So that's why we read canto to canto, from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and onwards. Don't just go to the 10th canto straight. We do. So, text 11. Sutta Goswami said, when Shukdev Goswami was thus requested by the king to describe the creative energy of the personality of Godhead, he then systematically remembered the master of the senses, Sri Krishna, and to reply properly, he spoke thus. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The devotees of the Lord, while delivering speeches and describing the transcendental attributes of the Lord, do not think that they can do anything independently. They think that they can speak only what they are induced to speak by the Supreme Lord, the master of the senses. The senses of the individual being are not his own. The devotee knows that such senses belong to the Supreme Lord and that they can be properly used when they are employed for the service of the Lord. The senses are instruments and elements are ingredients, all endowed by the Lord. Therefore, whatever an individual can do, speak, see, etc., is under the direction of the Lord. The Bhagavad Gita 15:15 confirms this. Sarvasya chaham hridi saniveshto mata smritir gyanam apohanam cha. No one is free to act freely and independently, and as such one should always seek the permission of the Lord to act or eat or speak, and by the blessing of the Lord everything done by a devotee is beyond the principles of the 4 defects typical of the conditioned soul.
It's a nice quote. Senses are instruments, elements are ingredients. Like 5 elements, do they mention? Do they indirectly saying that 5 elements are the ingredients? Our senses are instruments.
And elements are ingredients. I'm not too sure what he means by that. I wonder, does he mean...
But something is something in depth. Yeah, I think is I think so. Like feel like this. Like
I'm not. I'd have to meditate on that a bit more. What does he mean? Exactly. Translation number 12. Translation. Shukdev Goswami said, "Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who, for the creation of the material world, accepts the 3 modes of nature. He is the complete whole residing within the body of everyone, and his ways are inconceivable." Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This material world is a manifestation of the 3 modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, and the Supreme Lord, for the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material world, accepts 3 predominating forms as Brahma, Vishnu, and Shankar or Shiva. As Vishnu, he enters into every body materially created. As Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, he enters into every universe, and as Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, he enters the body of every living being. Lord Sri Krishna, being the origin of all Vishnu Tattvas, is addressed here as Parapuman or Purushottam, as described in the Bhagavad Gita 15:18. He is the complete whole. The Purusha avatars are therefore his plenary expansions. Bhakti Yoga is the only process by which one can become competent to know him. Because the empiric philosophers and mystic yogis cannot conceive of the personality of Godhead, he is called Anupalaksha Vartmane, the Lord of the inconceivable way, or Bhakti Yoga. Now, text number 13. Translation. I again offer my respectful obeisances unto the form of the complete existence and transcendence, who is the liberator of the pious devotees from all distresses and the destroyer of the further advances in atheistic temperament of the non-devotee demons. For the transcendentalists who are situated in the topmost spiritual perfection, he grants their specific destinations. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Sri Krishna is the complete form of all existence, both material and spiritual. Akila means complete, or that which is not kila, inferior. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, there are two kinds of nature, prakriti, namely the material nature and the spiritual nature, or the external and internal potencies of the Lord. The material nature is called apara, or inferior, and the spiritual nature is called superior, or transcendental. Therefore, the form of the Lord is not of the inferior material nature. He is complete transcendence, and he is murti, or having transcendental form. The less intelligent men, who are unaware of his transcendental form, describe him as impersonal Brahman, but Brahman is simply the rays of his transcendental body. The devotees who are aware of his transcendental form render him service. Therefore the Lord also reciprocates by his causeless mercy, and thus delivers his devotees from all distresses. The pious men who follow the rulings of the Vedas are also dear to him, and therefore the pious men of this world are also protected by him. The impious and the non-devotees are against the principles of the Vedas, and so such persons are always hampered from making advances in their nefarious activities. Some of them, who are especially favoured by the Lord, are killed by him personally, as in the cases of Ravan, Hiranyakashipu and Kamsa, and thus such demons get salvation and are thereby checked from further progress in their demoniac activities. Just like a kind father, either in his favour upon the devotees or his punishment of the demons, he is ever kind to everyone because he is the complete existence for all individual existence. The Paramahamsa stage of existence is the highest perfectional stage of spiritual values. According to Srimad Kunti Devi, the Lord is factually understood by the Paramahamsas only. As there is gradual realization of the transcendence from impersonal Brahman to localized Paramatma to the personality of Godhead, Purushottam, Lord Krishna, similarly, there is gradual promotion of one's situation in the spiritual life of sannyas. Kutichaka, Bahudaka, Parivrajacharya and Paramahamsa are gradual progressive stages in the renounced order of life, sannyas. And Queen Kunti Devi, the mother of the Pandavas, has spoken about them in her prayers for Lord Krishna, Canto 1, Chapter 8. The Paramahamsas are generally found among both the impersonalists and the devotees, but according to Srimad bhagavatam, as clearly stated by Kunti Devi, pure Bhakti Yoga is understood by the Paramahamsas, and Kunti Devi has especially mentioned that the Lord descends Paritranaya Sadhunam, especially toward Bhakti Yoga to the Paramahamsas. So ultimately, the Paramahamsas, in the true sense of the term, are unallied devotees of the Lord. Srila Jiva Goswami has directly accepted that the highest destination is Bhakti Yoga, by which one accepts the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Those who accept the path of Bhakti Yoga are the factual Paramahamsas. Okay. Since the Lord is very kind to everyone, the impersonalists who accept Bhakti Yoga as the means of merging in the existence of the Lord in his impersonal Brahmajyoti are also awarded their desired destination. He has assured everyone in the Bhagavad Gita 4:11, Ye yata mam prapajante. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, there are two classes of Paramahamsas, namely the Brahmanandis, impersonalists, and the Premanandis, devotees. And both are awarded their desired destinations, although the Premanandis are more fortunate than the Brahmanandis. But both the Brahmanandis and the Premanandis are transcendentalists, and they have nothing to do with the inferior material nature full of the existential miseries of life. Now, there you go.
Hmm?
I have to finish up and get your bus.
Oh.
So, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.